And, you know, if they do that, I'll make the Phoenix Suns their own apology video. Yo, what is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of NBA Now. I'm your boy Dom, and we're gonna get right into things today. So today, we are gonna be talking about the Phoenix Suns. And although this is controversial to some and uncontroversial to others, it's been a while since the finals had happened, but I didn't have my channel at that point, so I wanted to make a video on kind of a little bit of thoughts of that and what I think the Suns can do in the future. And so today we're gonna be talking about why I do not think the Phoenix Suns will be back in the NBA Finals this next season. So, and that's really to no fault of their own. It's just, I think, to the depth and changes in the league. Or at least I think they won't win the finals this next season if they somehow made it. So, let's look at the positives on the roster. I think pretty much this entire offseason was, for the most part, a positive for them. You brought in JaVale McGee on a $5 million contract. You traded for Landry Shamet and gave up very little other than really a guard that wasn't playing in Javon Carter that much, and a super late first round pick who turned into a center that probably wouldn't have helped a ton, as he's going to be a rookie center, and you needed more of a veteran behind DeAndre, and you didn't need to develop a guy. So, pretty good trade to bring in a shooter. You brought in Elfrid Payton as an insurance policy for if Chris Paul or Cameron Payne ended up getting injured, or maybe if Cameron Payne doesn't quite have the season that he had last year, especially in the playoffs. You paid Cameron Payne, except on a pretty team-friendly contract for what he did this last season. And then Chris Paul, although his contract is a lot, for now it's not that bad, as obviously he just got you to the finals, but it could progress to be one of the worst contracts in the NBA. So, with that said, that's pretty much the positives for the roster. The roster itself has pretty much only had positives since you brought in Chris Paul. The only negatives I would say were losing Torrey Craig this offseason and drafting Jalen Smith, which every front office at least makes mistakes in the draft. I mean, he's not even the only top 10 pick on this roster that wasn't what he was supposed to be. Like, Frank Kaminsky was a number 9 overall pick, so every team makes issues. Frank Kaminsky obviously wasn't drafted by the Suns, he was drafted by the Hornets, but he's not the only top guy on this roster that was a problem. They addressed a need in a backup big that can defend in JaVale McGee. They brought in another shooter, which in today's NBA, especially not having that knockdown guy to just be a pure shooter off the bench, it was a good pickup. And spacing and light up movement is more and more important every season, so you can't hate that pickup. But the reason why I don't think that they're going to be able to be at that top is really the rest of the league, right? Now, I'd say the Nuggets and Clippers are probably not going to be contenders next year due to injuries to star players such as Jamal Murray and Kawhi Leonard for at minimum most of the season. The Utah Jazz will probably be back to what they were this last season. The Dallas Mavericks will probably be a little better than they were, and who knows what Luka can do. We always, even though we know what Luka is and his potential, we still seem to be amazed every year by what he can do. He's a pretty phenomenal player, so we never know really if the Dallas Mavericks are going to jump to be one of the top teams in the conference or if they're going to stick at that mid-seed. I think at some point they will do that jump, but it'll just be a matter of time. Portland Trailblazers are going to be pretty much running it back with Dame, at least for this season. The Lakers had drastic moves, we all know about that, and so they created themselves a potential juggernaut or a potential problem down there. So, or regardless. So, that's just the top 7 teams, right? Then you still have the Grizzlies, which were a young team that did very well last year and are just going to be better. The Warriors, who will, I don't know if Klay is going to be back at the start of the season. If he's not, he'll be back during the season. Are going to be a healthy Warriors squad with even more strong youth talent on the team and more depth, looking more and more like past Warriors teams with Curry. The Spurs will probably not be in it. Pelicans might not be in it. Kings might not be in it. Timberwolves, if they're healthy, they have a record comparable to what Brandon Roy, LaMarcus Aldridge, and Greg Oden had when they were healthy. So it's kind of one of those situations. If the Timberwolves can stay healthy, they can be a super good team. If they can't stay healthy, they probably won't be a very good team. And that's just kind of how it's going to work out for them. Just the way that it did for the Blazers back before they got Damian Lillard. So, that's kind of up in the air. The Thunder probably won't be much, and who knows what the Rockets are going to be. It'll really depend a lot on Jalen Green and how him, Kevin Porter Jr., and John Wall can kind of work that backcourt as a trio. And then if Christian Wood can be healthy, we know that he's pretty much a perennial, if not all-star level player. So, they could be back in the mix this year as well to at least be a playoff team. And so when you look at it like that, you could say the West, for the most part, stayed on par with what it was last year, but with already significant injuries to 2 stars that were contender level teams, and the Phoenix Suns being more on the map this year, right? Obviously last year was the first year that the Suns hadn't made the playoffs in a long time, and so they had a little bit of surprise. Obviously, teams do their scouting. Teams are playing them. They know what the Suns are. Maybe they're caught off guard a little bit, but teams are just going to have more and more time to adjust and look at the Suns as a problem versus last year as kind of, oh, hey, Chris Paul went to another team and made them good, right? And then even if they make the finals out of that Western Conference, you still have to deal with either the Nets or the Bucks or the Heat or the Celtics, maybe the Bulls. I mean, the East significantly compared to the West increased its talent on some of its top-end teams and got better. And so I think more than likely the champion comes out of the East this upcoming season, which just makes things more difficult for the Suns because you're going to have to battle through a playoffs this next season in which the hardest part will most likely be the end, but it's still going to be a tougher conference because more teams are going to be prepared for what you're bringing to them. And if Chris Paul has any sort of dip, that pretty much guarantees you not making the finals because Cameron Payne would pretty much have to elevate himself to an all-star level player, which, although he had a good season last year, is very, very difficult to do. That's why there are all-star sums every year, but a guy like CJ has never made the all-star team. So think of what Cameron Payne, the level Cameron Payne would have to get to be that guy for the Suns next to Booker and Ayton, right? If Chris Paul had some sort of drop-off. And then, matchups are going to be different. Who knows if you're going to go against a injury-riddled Lakers team in the first round. I think that the path opened up well for the Suns, and, that's no fault to the Suns. They're out there winning their series, winning their games, and doing that. So I don't think you can discredit them for that. But I do think that the path somewhat opened up for them, right? What if the Mavericks beat the Clippers instead, and then you have to face the Mavericks in the conference finals? Or what if the Jazz are the ones in the conference finals, rather than a Kawhi-less Clippers team, right? And then, the second round, they just kind of destroyed the Nuggets, but what if Jamal Murray is healthy at the end of the season, right? So I think it's just going to be a tougher path for them this next season, and I just don't see them making it. I think they're going to come off, I don't see them coming off this win, for example, like the Miami Heat did. When the Big Three Miami Heat formed with LeBron, D-Wade, and Bosh, they came off finals loss, and then they came back and they won, because they came back with vengeance, right? I'm not, this is no shot at the guys' mentalities. I think, some of the guys' mentalities on the Suns is on that type of level where, we lost, let's go get it, you know what I mean? But it just doesn't feel that way, right? It feels like the Phoenix Suns had a heartbreaking loss, not a upstanding underdog story on the other side came to defeat you, in which all the credit to Giannis for what he did, but it didn't feel like it was a underdog story for Giannis. Obviously a multiple-time MVP coming into the series, and the world-renowned best player in the series, and arguably in the league. So it didn't feel like such an underdog story from the Milwaukee Bucks perspective, but in fact from the Phoenix Suns perspective. And typically underdogs, they strike once, right? Like an 8-seeded Knicks making the finals, or a 04 Detroit Pistons winning the finals, or even the Phoenix Suns, right? Typically underdog stories in NBA history, although they stay like the 04 Pistons, right? They had their 04 year, and then they stayed relevant, but they didn't ever become that 04 Pistons again. And I think that's, or even the 2011 Dallas Mavericks, right? They never were the 2011 Dallas Mavericks again. That was Dirk's run, right? And so you see these one-time underdog stories where that's your opportunity, and it's sad to say, but Phoenix probably missed their opportunity, and it's probably not going to come back again. You even, as a first year, we'll look at it like this, like a rookie player can come in and surprise the league. You can look at a guy like Michael Carter-Williams. You can look at a guy, guys, and I'm going to throw out busts out here, like a guy like Michael Carter-Williams, or I can't even, like a Kendrick Nunn that comes in and really surprises the league with what they did their rookie year, but they don't quite have that star potential, right? And so you can kind of look at that, like, Kendrick Nunn was a good pickup for the Lakers this last season, one of their better pickups, I think. And Michael Carter-Williams, for where he, excluding his rookie season, has had a good NBA career. He's been a backup, been a serviceable player, averaged like 7 points or something this last season, or a couple seasons ago. Regardless, has been a decent NBA player, but he's not been a star. And then you look at that for like teams, right? The 04 Pistons, that year they made the trade for Rasheed Wallace, then they came through, they won the championship, they beat Kobe and Shaq, right? All that. Okay, now we know what the Pistons are about, and they didn't do it again. The 2011 Dallas Mavericks, they worked and worked and worked, and then they finally got the chance, and they did it. Oh, okay, they've got it, they feel accomplished, whatever. I think it was more of aging that did a little bit to the end of that, and the rising of other teams, but you still get what I'm saying. Or the Toronto Raptors. Okay, we won it, Kawhi, I'm going to leave. Even the big three Celtics, they won in 08, and they didn't win again, right? Due to injury. But the Suns, I would say, are comparable to that 04 Pistons team, except the Suns didn't win it, right? The Suns had the 04 Pistons, right? It was all about that dominant offense that the Lakers had with Shaquille O'Neal and Kobe Bryant, and the 04 Pistons came in and locked it up on defense. But you look at the Phoenix Suns, right? It's all about the three-pointer in today's game. You shoot the three, get the stretch bigs. They came in and they won with the mid-range, right? So when you get those specific things that give you that advantage that season, that can also lead to be your downfall in the future seasons, because teams know what to look for. They have more time to prepare for it. And although it was a very strong offensive system that they had, it's not like teams are going to be better prepared for it this upcoming season. They're not going to be able to completely stop it, but they'll be better prepared. And when you're better prepared, when it comes down to closer games, you're able to get more stops or a stop. And sometimes all a basketball game needs is a stop, right? And so I just think that not to say that they're a fluke, because I don't think the 04 Pistons were a fluke. I don't think the 2011 Mavs were a fluke. I don't think any of these teams were flukes, but I just think that they are not even one-hit wonders, but just the one-time underdog story. And I don't see the Phoenix Suns having that happen again with this current roster and this soon after the success that they had. So I expect at least noticeable drop-off this next year, especially when it comes to the playoffs. They could still be a very strong regular season team. In fact, they could be the first overall seed in the Western Conference. But I do not expect them to be back in the finals. And for pretty much that reason, itself is they had their run, right? And it feels like one of those teams where they had their run, now it's over. Best of luck to the Phoenix Suns. You know, obviously as a Nuggets fan, a little salty they beat us, but I didn't quite expect to win that series, to be honest. But yeah, super excited for this next season. If the Suns do end up making it, or if they do end up winning it, I, of course, will take fault for that. And, you know, if they do that, I'll make the Phoenix Suns their own apology video. I just don't see it happening. So, with that said, it's been your boy Dom. This has been NBA Now, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace out.